we launched the most powerful telescope in history into space. James Webb is designed to unravel the mysteries of galaxies that rapidly drift away from us. However, the most enigmatic galaxy can be seen in the night sky with the naked eye, and it's currently hurtling right towards us. The Andromeda Galaxy has puzzled scientists more than once or twice, and it keeps giving them many challenging tasks. In this video, you'll find out, how did this galaxy make our universe millions of times larger? Why do we find the most mind-blowing black holes there and yet never see a single planet? And what mysteries of the Andromeda Galaxy continue to plague scientists? How did it manage to trick many astronomers, including even Hubble? In the 10th century, Persian scientist Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi became the first to describe this galaxy as a nebulous smear. He was sure he saw a space cloud. In the 17th century, German astronomer Simon Marius noticed a peculiar glow coming from the Andromeda Galaxy, quote, like a candle shining through a horn. All these strange metaphors prove that astronomers had no idea what they were looking at. In the late 18th century, British observer William Herschel concluded that Andromeda was the nearest nebula to Earth, composed of gas and dust that bright stars were able to shine through. This meant the galaxy was relatively small, just a few dozen light years in diameter. It was fooling scientists so expertly that only a century ago they were sure that all of our universe consists just of the Milky Way alone, plus some small nebulae surrounding it. American astronomer Harlow Shapley dared to risk his reputation when in 1920 he clashed with self-confident Heber Curtis during the Great Debate. Curtis had the nerve to say that Andromeda is a separate galaxy located 500,000 light-years away. Shapley and the majority of scientists stood their ground and flatly refused to believe that the Milky Way could have any neighbors in the universe. And only legendary Edwin Hubble finally defeated them in 1925. With the help of the most advanced telescope of that time, he discovered Cepheid variable stars in the Andromeda Galaxy and calculated the distance, since their luminosity was precisely known, almost 1,000,000 light-years. Although, later, it turned out that even Hubble had been tricked by Andromeda. The scholar didn't know that Cepheids are different types of stars. So, in fact, the distance between us and the galaxy is nearly 3 times greater, 2.5 million light-years. Since the moment Andromeda showed us its true colors and made our universe thousands of times more extensive, it has confused us with tons of other secrets. Andromeda never ceases to undermine everything we know about galaxies and such. Its first detailed picture, taken in the late 19th century, demonstrated a spiral structure with large gaps between its arms. That was when astronomers understood that the Milky Way that we see from inside is by no means a solid stellar disk, but a similar spiral whirlpool. And then the shape of Andromeda created a new puzzle. When Vera Rubin, an American astronomer, started exploring the galaxy in the early 70s, it had already been established that its disk is 2 times wider than the Milky Way, 220 light-years in diameter. Rubin expected that, given this size, the stars situated at the very edge of the disk would revolve around the galactic nucleus extremely slowly. But instead, they were speeding around it just like race cars on a track. And Andromeda should have been blown to pieces in this dangerous game long ago. Rubin realized that the only thing that could explain this paradox was a colossal cloud full of some invisible substance able to keep the galaxy from falling apart. That was how astronomers discovered massive dark matter galactic halos. It remains unclear what exactly they're made of, but thanks to Andromeda, scientists created realistic simulations showing how galaxies move and develop. And then they faced another problem. In most simulations, we can see hundreds of dwarf satellite galaxies appear around any large galaxy. Only in reality, there are no more than dozens of them. Where are the rest? Only in 2022, Italian amateur astrophotographer Giuseppe Donatiello suddenly spotted an ultra-faint galaxy called Pegasus 5 not far away from Andromeda's disk. Its visibility is so poor because most of the stars in this galaxy are very old, as Pegasus 5 formed 12.5 billion years ago. Usually, dwarf galaxies don't live so long because they get devoured by larger neighbors. This is why Andromeda's companion is a priceless artifact from the early universe. Now we know that most dwarf galaxies can be hiding right under our noses, which means that the simulations created by scholars are correct. One of them has shown something extraordinary. Whatever we do, in 3 billion years, Andromeda will run into the Milky Way at a tremendous speed. Fortunately, stars in both galaxies are pretty sparse, so they're unlikely to collide. However, that's not the main reason for concern. Scientists worry about other objects found there. And Andromeda's black holes are even more perplexing than everything else. Look at this picture taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. You can see the Milky Way's nucleus crammed with stars. This is where the invisible monster is lurking. Supermassive black hole Sagittarius A star weighs more than 4 billion suns and manipulates all neighboring stars in the galactic nucleus. Hubble was supposed to find something like that in the center of the Andromeda Galaxy, but instead of this, it came across a new mystery. Hubble captured a double nucleus, and it's obviously asymmetric. Its right part, the dim one, is a supermassive black hole weighing around 200 million suns. But what is this thing on the left? At first, astronomers thought that it's just a star cluster that wandered into the Andromeda Galaxy's nucleus and now spins around the black hole. There is a but here. Its enormous gravity would have scattered all those stars around space ages ago. The only thing able to make them stay put is another black hole. This would mean that Andromeda has a very rare double nucleus composed of black holes, and it was formed after the galaxy had crashed into another galaxy. Here's another contradiction. According to simulations, a system of such black holes must look very different from what Hubble caught on camera. This mystery around Andromeda's double nucleus has been torturing scientists for several decades already. And then, quite recently, the wayward galaxy has finally shown a shred of compassion and given astronomers a possible key to one of the most enigmatic black hole paradoxes. Researchers found many black holes whose masses don't exceed 100 suns, and a lot of supermassive black holes as heavy as millions of suns. These are two extremes, and it seems that there's nothing in between. The question of why they've never found intermediate mass black holes has been driving scholars crazy for years, because it's completely unclear how supermassive galactic nuclei emerged. Sometimes, astronomers see objects that can potentially be intermediate mass black holes here and there, but in most cases, these are pure assumptions. And so it went until 2022, when researchers finally spotted something unique in one of Andromeda's globular clusters. The star's orbits clearly hint at a black hole weighing 100,000 suns. Subsequently, these elusive objects may be hiding in many other clusters, including those beyond Andromeda, especially since black holes, even as heavy as this, have fairly modest sizes comparable to gas giants like Jupiter. However, this leads us to the last and biggest mystery of the Andromeda Galaxy. Why were all attempts to discover at least one exoplanet out there futile? To date, more than 5,000 exoplanets have been discovered, and all of them lie within the Milky Way. The Hubble Space Telescope gave us a brilliant panoramic shot of Andromeda full of fine details, but exoplanet hunters aren't satisfied. The galaxy is too far from us to see how exoplanets actually influence particular stars. And yet, in 1999, we got fabulously lucky. One of the Andromeda Galaxy's stars passed right in front of another, and it wasn't traveling alone. Astronomers believe that the second star may have a gas giant more than 6 times heavier than Jupiter. If so, that will be the first exoplanet found outside the Milky Way. The bad news is that this effect may also result from simple data distortion, and we have no chance to check this since the stars will never align so perfectly again. But what if the absence of visible exoplanets in Andromeda should be blamed not on the imperfection of our telescopes, but on the fact that trillions of stars in that galaxy have almost no exoplanets orbiting them? It sounds crazy because if there are so many of them in the Milky Way, then naturally another galaxy shouldn't be an exception. Besides, back in 1885, Irish astronomer Isaac Ward saw a supernova explosion near Andromeda's nucleus. This indicates that there must be enough material for exoplanets. However, it still remains the only supernova humans have spotted in the Andromeda galaxy, while there are dozens of them in the Milky Way. Could our neighbor be governed by some mysterious force that doesn't let exoplanets appear or even destroys them? Considering that the galaxy is rapidly approaching us, it wouldn't hurt to figure out what's wrong with it in advance. Well, perhaps the James Webb Space Telescope, well equipped for tracking distant exoplanets, will manage to break Andromeda's planetary curse. It's either that, or we must wait for a couple of billion years until the approaching Andromeda galaxy occupies half of the skies and lets ordinary telescopes see it. But even when it finally unveils some of its secrets, our neighbor will play its last cruel joke on us. When the Milky Way and Andromeda collide, we'll have a chance to see an incredibly bright light show up in space that will run for billions of years. And since we can hardly see the most remote galaxies even now, those blinding flares can make it utterly impossible for scientists to observe most of the universe. If some civilization starts its space studies in this era, it'll be sure that the elliptical supergalaxy comprised of the Milky Way and Andromeda is the only world existing out there, and nobody will ever convince them otherwise.